Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is RJ Rashmi Sharma, your crypto dose, and I welcome you to Unocoin's YouTube channel. You must be having doubts around the new TDS applications that would be applied on any kind of digital transfer of assets. And for this, we have come up with an AMA. I know you guys must be waiting for Sathvik, and you must have seen the latest video that we uploaded on our YouTube channel. And today is yet another day, but it's very different because from now on, every transfer of digital assets will incur or attract TDSs. And in the last couple of weeks, days, those exchanges who operate from India have been, revamping their websites, revamping their applications just to accommodate these new changes. But now all your questions would be answered. There are a few pointers that I would like you to know. First and the foremost is this aim is going to be happening from 5 p.m. IST to 6 p.m. IST. So I request all of you guys to do not hesitate. Please ask your questions as soon as you can on any platform. But I would prefer that you ask your questions, type in your questions in the form of a comment on YouTube. I assume that you must be seeing us or watching us through Facebook or Twitter. But if you have to ask questions, it is very much essential for you to switch on to your YouTube and then comment your questions. Without much ado, let me take the initiative and take the plunge and welcome the subject matter expert himself, Sathvik, जो हमारे साथ हैं यहाँ पर. Sathvik, how are you? Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, I'm doing good, and nice to be talking about. Talking in this AMA session. It's been quite some time since I did the last one.
Yes.
So now we have more exciting things to cover.
Yes. So I'll start with a very basic thing. When we say that as per the income tax section of 194S, every virtual digital transfer will attract TDS. What do you mean by transfer exactly?
See, initially that is how it was worded, but then there was clarity given. So it is that as of now, when you buy virtual asset, even though it's a transfer from one person to another person, the buyer need not be paying the TDS, but the seller will be doing it. And after the virtual digital assets is bought, and when they try to exit their position, then again 1% TDS will be applicable. Okay. But on the other side, when it is crypto to crypto transaction, like let's say BTC to USDT, etc., then 1% TDS is applicable on both sides because both of them are exiting one crypto and entering the other crypto.
Okay. So is it dependent on different exchanges which are only based out of India, or it is applicable to any transfer across borders?
See, the cross border of like how this gets defined when it comes to the transfer of virtual assets is not very clear, right? So some we talk about capital controls, etc., like 100 different things. But however, the exchange which is outside India, as of today, do not have an obligation to collect the TDS and pay it to the government, right? So if they have an entity in India and they're facilitating the trades through that entity, yeah, then they should. So right now we just have to assume that if the transaction is happening between an Indian entity or a person against someone outside India who is not on the Indian law of the land, so the TDS is not applicable.
Okay. For example, let me just simplify it for the Unocoiners, like anybody who has a verified account on Unocoin. For example, if I am an Unocoiner and I have 10,000 rupees, I deposit 10,000 rupees INR, the fiat currency, into my Unocoin wallet, and I buy any of the virtual asset that is available, for example, Cardano. So what all tax implications after the union budget has been presented would be incurred on that particular transfer, because that is fiat to cryptocurrency transfer?
See, fiat to cryptocurrency will not attract any kind of taxes except that for a transaction fees that we charge you, there will be a GST, which is, let's say, if you're buying it to our exchange and paying about 0.3% as transaction fees, and then there will be 18% on top of that 0.3%, which could eventually come down to about 0.052% or something like that. So that will be the only GST that is applicable. So when you're entering the crypto, it's not applicable.
Okay, so fiat to crypto transfer, be it any order value, it could be any order value, if a particular buyer of cryptocurrency is based out of India and he or she is availing that particular order through a Indian exchange, he or she will not have any kind of tax TDS liability to be paid except the exchange fees,
That's
whatever that
correct. That's
exchange is
correct.
charging.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then we also have different guidelines as to which slab we fall into. There are people who fall into 1% slab, then there are people who have to pay a little higher in terms of TDS. Could you clarify that?
Sure. So see, this TDS is not specific to crypto, right? So it's applicable. Let's say for the salary that we get, we pay TDS. And let's say if there is a purchase of a real estate which is more than 50 lakh rupees, so there is some limit, then there is TDS. And let's say some contractor is providing you some invoice, and there is TDS, etc. So this TDS applicable in, I mean, not just crypto, right? So let's say if an individual or an entity have filed their income taxes in the last 2 years, then they fall under the 1% slab,
Yeah.
1% TDS. And if they have not done it, but they have got the TDS of more than 50,000 rupees, then they fall under the 5% slab, which means uh, if it is 50,000 rupees of TDS, generally means at least 5 lakh rupees worth of revenue.
Correct.
Okay, or it could be 50 lakh rupees worth of revenue, depending upon what other services we're talking about. And at that level, it usually becomes mandatory for one to file the income tax, right? So because there is so much of revenue exists. But anyway, on the other side, if they have not done it, even though the TDS is paid by someone on the behalf of, I mean, for their particular PAN card, but they have not done the filing, then the government want to penalize them by applying 5% tax, 5% TDS on them.
Yeah, so that's quite insightful on how the tax would be calculated on the transfers.
That also was a feature there. It does, but as of now, nothing.
Look in front of the camera when
Yeah.
you answer, don't look at me.
Sure.
Okay, so the next question for Sathvik is again around the transfer of virtual digital assets. So as I was talking about, the different slabs in which a particular person will fall into, I wanted to understand why are we considering only the last 2 years if somebody has filed their taxes or not?
I think it is. I mean, you have to have a number there, right? So it is just that you consider generally, like, as a person, they will start earning, let's say when they are 18 or 20 years age, and the earnings, if someone has to achieve 20, I mean, 50,000 itself, then the amount of business they would have done or contracts that they have provided or taken would be in terms of about 5 lakh, 10 lakh kind of rupees, right? So they are seeing last 2 years to see whether that person is compliant or not with the tax regulation, and if they are not, then they are putting like higher TDS, so that at least this time, because there is more TDS there, which is getting locked away, then there is on either side the government makes money, or else if this guy wants it, he has to file income taxes anyway. So which is both are good in a way.
Yeah. So I have been, looking at the questions that people are generally asking around, around the new TDS that has been, applied. A lot of people, like as a typical Indian mentality, is they want to save taxes, and the most searched question on the internet in the last couple of days is, how can I save tax on crypto? Do you have certain, legitimate way to save taxes around crypto?
Income tax is concerned, for every profit that someone gets, it's a 30% straight away tax.
Okay.
It does not even fall under the slabs. So which means there is no room for optimizing to see how and whether I can do the transaction sooner or later so that I fall under the better slab. So that is not happening. But on the other side, if you're talking about TDS, I mean, it's actually TDS is good, right? So it's 1% of the total transaction value. It is a part of the income tax that paid sooner itself. So that's how I would say, I would be seeing this as. So then people have to file their income tax by the end of the financial year and take the whatever extra taxes that was paid to the government. It would be refunded back from the income tax department. So I actually don't see a lot of room through which taxes can be saved and such. People have to plan their trades strategically to see like at what time they want to exit and when they want to enter. And TDS is applicable even if someone is not making profit. Even if someone is making loss, TDS is still applicable. Just the income tax is not applicable, which means they have to still pay TDS today and claim it back when they do the returns at the end of the financial year.
Yeah. I wanted to understand, since you have been a pioneer, a pillar behind creating the first Bitcoin company of India, right? What all challenges did you face to revamp your application, your website, and how challenging it was to, implement all of these changes?
But this is not like hundreds of changes, and generally when you say a cryptocurrency exchange or a company, they would be tech savvy in nature. They would obviously have the required tech team, which is a skilled